Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It's still in the description below. It is still your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any of our watches. Please reach out to me directly. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we discuss a 2023 launch from Moser Cie. This is the Streamliner Flyback Boutique Edition, available only in the company's first two factory stores in Shanghai and Hong Kong. It was also briefly available on their e-commerce platform, so exclusive, the first use of a strap on a Streamliner. The watch is based on the Streamliner Flyback that first came out in steel in 2020. So you can see here in rose gold, 42.3 millimeters in diameter by 14.5 millimeters thick. And then from lug to lug, it is a lugless watch. It is 42.6 millimeters. I'm going to throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and you can see it wears quite nicely. It's not a thin watch, but with a sloped flank, it should fit underneath the jacket cuffs. You can see, being lugless, the lugs are far inboard of my wrist in this down the barrel view, and then from over the top, you can see just how much clearance I have on each side. I would recommend this watch for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. The Streamliner on a strap wears about a size smaller than the Streamliner on its integrated bracelet. I should be clear that this strap is made of textile on the top, and then on the bottom, it's made of calfskin. It is quite thick. It's got some bolstering to give it thickness. It's got a folded edge, a monotone stitch, and then it has a full deployment clasp here with the Moser logo. Note, it has a trigger release system, so you have to press these triggers to open it. It's not friction fit. It can't pop open inadvertently. It is a double fold. You can see Brogioli, the B, maker's mark. Brogioli made this for Moser. And then externally, Moser branded with a combination of polish and satin for refinement. Moving around to the case, we have much the same, a combination of polish and satin, but Moser cases always feature evacuation and profile, and here we have deep evacuations with satin channels inboard, and then the mid case is defined by the overlap of the case back and the bezel, the edges of each beveled all the way around. As you can see, though, the contours of the bevel do change, particularly around the lugs. The chronograph pushers are polished and rounded off, and we have a crown that is a screw down with a double knurling design and a Moser M. We have a sort of lapping machine radial satin grain here, as the Streamliner was always designed to reference watches from the 1970s, and that includes the finishing style, without deliberately plagiarizing a specific model. So they do a good job of capturing the spirit of the era without actually looking like a car from the time frame. Kind of like the way the 1992 Dodge Viper channeled the Shelby Cobra, but it didn't actually look like a modern day Cobra. It was a Viper. And so that's what we've got here. There is a dramatic box section profile to the sapphire, and then a cambered curve above that, indicating that a very expensive sapphire indeed was chosen, because the more complexity to the shape, the more it costs. We have another 70s reference here with the racing dial, often seen on Omegas of the late 60s through mid-70s, this sort of checkered flag motif, just like you would see on a race course at the conclusion or on an Omega of the 70s. And you can see that it is an instantaneous jumping minute display, and that with the Agengraph caliber here doing business as the HMC 907 movement, we have a radial seconds display, but then we also have a radial minutes display. Like an old 1970s Le Mans chrono, the minute hand jumps once a minute, so it always indicates true, and you can read the seconds and the fractions of the seconds. And with a 3 Hertz beat rate, the watch has a chronograph resolution as small as 1/6 of a second. And I find that having a 60-minute chronograph really helps, because most chronos only have a 30-minute register. What if you want to time something that's, I don't know, 41 minutes? This is a lot easier. Lume, yep. Blocks of ceramic Globalite lume on the hands. And then we have clear lacquer for the Moser logo. Moser has two assumptions. One, that their design language is strong enough that you don't need to see the Moser logo. Two, given that their watches are typically 95% Swiss made, they don't actually sign them Swiss made, because 60% of total value allows a watch to be labeled Swiss made. So rather than accepting the lower standard, Moser simply allows you to recognize the quality of the watch and the commitment to building in Switzerland, so you don't need that little safety blanket at the base of the dial. You know where this watch comes from. Now here we have a metallic sunburst pattern and matrix green. This was originally seen on the Streamliner Center Second that came out in 2020, and it is a fade from sort of metallic green at the center to almost black at the edge, matrix green. One applied rose gold set of numerals, 60 up at the top, and note they use 60 and not 12 at the top of the dial. Looking outboard, you can see there is a tachymeter scale that acts as a rejo around the dial, allowing you to use the chronograph to gauge the speed of an object. So if an object starts the kilometer and finishes the kilometer now, assuming you started the chrono when the object passed the start of the kilometer, you would know that it is traveling at 350 kilometers per hour. Now, it's also a flyback chronograph, which means reset and restart without first stopping. Great for gauging the speed or the timing of things that are moving very fast that don't give you a lot of downtime in between recordings. Turning it all over, you might be surprised to know that this is an automatic movement with a tungsten rotor that sits under the dial, thus out of sight. And originally the HMC 902 based on the Agengraph, the upgraded 907 featured here now includes a 72-hour power reserve rather than the former 54. On the case back, 12 ATM, screw-down crown. Not only 120 meters water resistant, but Moser boasts that you can use the chronograph pushers down to that rated depth. And while I generally take things like that on faith, I still don't recommend doing it, but that's just me. Nickel anthracite coating across the Agengraph. Column wheel chronograph, which you could see up at the top. It features a clutch that blends some of the elements of a vertical clutch and some of the elements of a lateral clutch. So the idea is to try to create a clutch that has less inherent jump or stagger when you start the chrono, while also having the shock resistance of a toothed lateral clutch. It doesn't always start without any jump, though in general, if you press and hold, my experience is that there is less jumping to that seconds hand than if this were a conventional lateral clutch. So that is the Agen clutch. 3 hertz beat rate, remarkable 55 joules, the flyback chronograph capability, and again, a number of just different elements that, according to Jean-Marc Viderecht of Agenor, the creator of the movement, would qualify it for Geneva hallmark if indeed the hallmark were to be sought. It meets the standards. It is primarily fabricated in Geneva by Agenor. And you could see we have stripes across the bridges, black polished screws, satination on all of the steel pieces of the chronograph. You could see that the beveling is to a very high grade. We have a lovely solarization atop the barrel on the ratchet wheel and very fine, thin, beautifully executed springs with engine-turned perlage on the base plate. It is a credit to its maker as well as to Moser for specifying such a high-grade chronograph caliber. So reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.